Well, fine, good afternoon all. This is Patricia and I am traveling for history. I'm in Addison, Vermont today, specifically at the Chimney Point State Historic Site. The building I'm standing in is the 1785 Tavern. Let me turn the camera around, actually. Let me turn around first and show you the view from here. Oh, that's Lake Champlain, folks. Stone's throw from here. My gosh, that's beautiful. That noise you hear is traffic crossing the Crownpoint Bridge. In fact, this is the bridge they're talking about. I'm talking about. Let me point out this winch down here, used circa 1900 on a ferry or ferry dock at Chimney Point. It was made by the Nye Iron Foundry in Whitehall, New York. How cool is that? All right, so let me tell you about the bridge here. So the bridge, this one here, was built in just 15 months at a cost of $967,800. When completed, it stood 2,186 feet long and about 28 feet wide. Its vertical clearance was 90 feet to accommodate the height of the smokestack of the steamer Vermont during periods when the lake was at an extremely high level. The 1929 Lake Champlain Bridge was the first modern highway bridge to cross the 120-mile-long lake. The Boston engineering firm of Fay, Spofford, and Thorndike and the Lake Champlain Bridge Commission considered several designs for this crossing before adapting a continuous truss technology used for railroads in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. They selected this bridge type for its economy of materials, structural efficiency, and because it offered an especially pleasing appearance. Charles M. Spofford's engineering solutions and inventive design became a prototype for continuous truss highway bridges in the decades that followed. The bridge was listed in the National Register of Historic Places in 2009. Quote, the historic importance of the site and the fact that the bridge would be conspicuous for many miles on account of its height made its appearance of special importance, unquote. That was from Charles M. Spofford about the Lake Champlain Bridge. This photograph right in front of us, and let me zoom in for you, says work on the bridge, which is visible in the background, which is right here, began in June 1928, and the last connecting beam was raised 1 year later. Improvements to the 2.3-mile access road to the bridge, which was part of a larger highway program proposed by Vermont Governor John E. Weeks, were completed by the close of 1929. And just for a reference point, this building right here is the tavern. So why was the bridge significant? It was the first American bridge to use continuous truss technology to achieve an arching transition between the deck approach spans and the channel through span. This innovation provided an aesthetic alternative to arch construction for medium-span highway bridges in scenic locations. Its design allowed the arched center span to be constructed without temporary supports, allowing the navigation channel to remain open. Inventive engineering of the slender channel piers employed an open single-wall cofferdam process to a depth of 100 feet below lake level, the deepest examples used at the time. This is a photograph of the 1929 Lake Champlain Bridge dedication, which had much fanfare on August 26, 1929. The day's events included an automobile parade that stretched for 12 miles, creating massive traffic jams on both sides of the lake. And this picture down below. On October 16, 2009, the bridge was closed after engineers observed serious deterioration of its piers. A subsequent engineering study concluded the bridge was unsafe for repair and recommended its demolition. On December 28 of that year, a controlled implosion caused the 6 central spans of the bridge to drop into Lake Champlain. During the next 6 months, crews removed the twisted steel and piers from the icy waters and demolished bridge viaduct sections over land. Prior to demolition, efforts were made to protect historic resources and archaeological sites in the immediate vicinity of the bridge. And look at that. This is a fragment of lattice cross bracing which was retrieved immediately after the demolition of the Lake Champlain Bridge on December 28, 2009. When I first saw it, I thought it was a railroad crossing sign. Be curious if you thought so too. And then, if you were to come here, you could watch a video on this very topic. Signage for Port Henry Ferry. This ferry sign showing an old sail ferry marked the road leading down to the Chimney Point landing. It may have been associated with one of the early ferries that were in operation before the steamer G.R. Sherman. It's beautiful. Crossing the lake, we have the ferries here. Chimney Point has been an important crossing of Lake Champlain since the earliest human habitation here over 9,000 years ago. You can watch my first video on that for the Native American section. Regular ferry operations ceased in 1929 when the Lake Champlain Bridge opened. In the 1850s, Asahel Barnes Jr. used 4 Canadian ponies to walk the treadmill that powered his horse ferry, Gypsy. Although no images of the Gypsy have been located, this photograph of an Ohio horse ferry shows 2 horses at work on inclined treadmills. Now, we have seen a treadmill in parts at the Lincoln Historical Society Museum. I'll attach that video to this one. The Barnes family. Near the turn of the century, Millard Barnes converted his old family home into a summer resort for regional tourists. Named after the colonial French fort built at Crown Point, the St. Frederick Inn boasted, quote, the finest location on Lake Champlain, unquote. It commanded beautiful views of the lake and mountains and offered guests easy access to fishing, bathing, canoeing, yachting, and historic sites. Chimney Point's location at the crossroads of lake and overland travel had long made it a natural spot for weary travelers to rest after their journey. Previous owners of this building, including Millard's grandfather, Asahel Sr., also had made part of their livelihood by operating the place as a tavern. Millard's Inn capitalized on the public's thirst for history and operated for over 20 years. This photo up here on the verandas at the St. Frederick Inn. And then we have some promotional brochures down here. And then the postmarks and the stationery. Not sure that's going to be readable. My phone has not been happy with filming today. Over here, Barnes Family Enterprises, keeping time. Before moving to Chimney Point, Asahel Barnes Sr. had worked in the clockmaking business in Connecticut, something he continued to do here during the late 1820s and 30s. Like many Vermont clockmakers, he purchased the wooden gears and assembled them. He probably also made the cabinets to house the clock movements. Other family members were involved in the industry. His daughter, Emmeline, painted the dials and purportedly died of lead poisoning from this activity. Edward Barnes, a son, lived in Bristol, Connecticut, where he became a well-known clock merchant. Many Chimney Point clocks contain labels with his initials pasted over his father's, implying that Edward may have made the clocks instead of Asahel. Aren't these clocks beautiful? Wow. This one you can really see the pendulum in here. Of course, this is the pendulum. What a beautiful dial. Wow. The craftsmanship never ceases to amaze me. And these are where the key goes to adjust the time. What have they chimed? And this is, ooh, this is an advertisement inside of this one. Improved clocks, manufactured and sold by E.M. Barnes, Chimney Point, Vermont. I can't read that last sentence.